statistical, mathematical fact
never has been down.
has broken every single record. There is no asset that has come close.
It's the only thing in the industry that was not touched, that was not hacked, and it never fails doing what it promised in 2009. It's never
What's
failed.
the best performing asset the world has ever seen? And you'll find out that it's Bitcoin. Welcome, Bitcoiners. Welcome, traders. Welcome, supporters. Welcome, followers. Welcome, haters. Welcome, Bitcoin negators. Happy Bitcoin halving day. Welcome. Come on in. Make yourselves comfortable. Grab the beverage of your choice. Maybe take something to take notes with. Welcome to another live session with Oliver Velez. Of course, my name is Oliver Velez, and I've decided to have a pre-halving brief talk with you on a topic that has become, once again, a very popular talking point. What is that talking point? Oliver, what if the U.S. government bans Bitcoin? What if other governments ban Bitcoin around the world? Bitcoin threatens the United States' hegemony, their world reserve currency. They're never going to allow it. And I don't know what does this, but every now and then, this dumb rebuttal to getting off of zero pops up and bubbles to the top of everything else. And I often use my DMs and the many comments and things I receive to shape and direct me toward topics that I should basically address. And once again, for whatever reason, this has sort of floated to the top of everything. And I have no idea what does this, but it is what it is. So I would like to actually take some time today to do this again. I've done this before, but I want to talk to you about why. Not only do I believe, but I know the United States is the most dominant Bitcoin force in the world today, guys. It is my belief that the United States is playing 3D chess while the rest of the world is still playing freaking checkers when it comes to Bitcoin. And I hope by the end of my talk that you will understand and believe this as well. I think it's imperative that you understand and actually believe this, because doing so will remove this nonsense away from you once and for all. It will also help you be able to address the silly rebuttals on this in this regard. Okay? So I apologize about the technical difficulties from before. I had my headphones on, they were in a different room, and I didn't realize that. So I was speaking to you, but I was speaking through my headphones, which is in a different room. So anyway, here we are. I hope everything is resolved now. And I see no comments, so I'm assuming that everything is fine. Okay. Before I delve into the topic, I do want to briefly let you know where we are as far as the Bitcoin halving is concerned. So happy Bitcoin halving day, guys. We are currently at block 839,963. We are roughly 5 hours and 53 minutes from Bitcoin's fourth halving, a very, very historical event. I believe that this halving is going to be the most important halving for you and me, for us. I believe that this halving is more important than any other halving that's ever happened in Bitcoin's history. This is going to be the fourth one. We've only had three before. This is the second halving that I am personally living through. But I will tell you that it is my belief that this is the big one. This is the one that we have to make count. This is the one that can change our lives, the lives of our families forever. This is the halving that can change the nature of your last name. This is the halving that can change the trajectory of your entire bloodline. And if you don't really understand the reasons why I'm saying that, you need to listen to my last 2 live events where I specifically address that. You can't miss this one, guys. This is the reason why I believe also that for the first time, this halving is the one that's ubiquitous. You can't turn on a financial news program and not hear talk about the halving. For the first time, the world is more aware that tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of people will be focused on this, whether they like it or not, when the halving takes place in 5 hours or so. It will be broadcast all over the world. Groups are going to watch it take place all over the world. I do not remember this fervor in the first halving that I experienced back in May of 2020. In fact, there was so much misinformation about the halving at the time, and it was very dearth and very scarce, the number of people that were focused on it and talking about it, unless you really went to a Bitcoin centric, I don't know, medium or what have you. But today it's become a lot more mainstream. But I am telling you, we've got to make this one count. We've got to make this one, the fourth halving, count for our families. And if you miss this one, I am afraid that you'll never have this opportunity again, ever, ever. It's a once in 1,000-year opportunity for mankind. We're very unique in this regard because we have the ability. We are blessed to be alive during it, and we are blessed to be in a position to be able to do something about it. People will read about this in history the same way I go back and I read the many posts about the Bitcoin back in 2010 in the forums or whatever. They're going to be reading about us today. All right. So we're 5 hours and roughly 50 minutes away from the next halving. That halving takes place in block 4, 840,000. I will be live with my Bitcoiners. We will be watching, witnessing this moment of history. There's 37. There's 37 blocks to go. All right, and the estimated time of this happening based on an estimated 10 minutes per block is about 9:17 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's New York time. All right, guys, listen, I'm puffing on a cigar. Hope you don't mind me taking periodic breaks to puff on you. But let's delve into the topic today. So listen, grab the beverage of your choice, take some notes if you find that useful. And I will tell you that whether you can stay for the entire talk that I'm going to have, this pre-having talk that I'm going to have with you or not, I do want you to understand that and know that all of my live talks do wind up on my Bitcoin podcast called Bitcoin Unleashed. Go look for that. It is on YouTube. It is on Spotify. It's on Fountain App. It's on Apple. It's on Google. You pick the podcasting platform of your choice. Just search out Bitcoin Unleashed or even my name, Oliver Velez. You'll find it, subscribe to it. If you find anything that I have to say today of interest, and you will find the hours, the weeks, the months of information and the limited amount of knowledge that I particularly have regarding Bitcoin over scores of talks in the past. Okay. All right, guys. So the title of this talk, the U.S. is the most dominant Bitcoin force in the world. And I'm going to prove this to you by us going through some history. I want to prove to you that the U.S. actually loves Bitcoin. This is what I want to prove to you. If this is not your belief at the current moment, not only will the U.S. never ban Bitcoin or never attempt to ban Bitcoin, all right? The U.S. actually loves Bitcoin. But first, let us establish that no country or no government or no nation state can ever ban Bitcoin. What they can try to do is ban their citizens from having access to Bitcoin, which is an impossibility in and of itself. You can't ban words. You can't ban language. You can't ban maths. And at the end of the day, Bitcoin is just that. It's maths. It's mathematics. It's words, it's language. All of those things are kind of simultaneous. They're unanimous in a way. Well, not they're synonymous in a way. All right. Code is language, language is maths. It's all the same. And you can't ban these things. You can't ban the letter B from your race of people or from your citizens just because B stands for Bitcoin. You can tell them, get rid of the letter B, but they'll still have the letter B. You can't do it. Bitcoin is this unique asset that is outside of the realm of all human control or influence in any way, yet at the same time, in this weird way, is accessible to every human being. So every human being can have access to it. Every human being can be benefited and blessed by it. And by holding it, you increase your life and your value mathematically every 4 years of your existence. You can access it. You can tie your life into it, but you can't influence. You can't influence it. You can't control it. You can't stop it. You can't pause it. You can't halt it. You can't debase it. You can't steal it, and you can't confiscate it. So Bitcoin allows itself to be accessed for all of its benefits, but you can't access it to hurt it, harm it, affect it in any negative way. It's the first asset, the first commodity. We'll talk about that in just a minute. The first asset, the first commodity, the first money to ever exist in the world that is truly outside of the control of human beings. And this is one of many reasons why it is extraordinarily special. And it marks a turning point in the entire human evolutionary process. Now, when I say that the US loves Bitcoin, I am not talking about your frickin' bozo politicians who dance around on their podiums and in front of their frickin' microphones, entertaining the masses. These are the clowns that are basically put in front of the real US. We don't know, in truth, who the real US is, the real power, the true controllers of the strings of the money. We know terms like the Federal Reserve and the Treasury Department and the President of the United States and Congress and Senate and, the judicial body and da. These are all fancy words and concocted departments that basically stand as a front to what the U.S. really is, or what the U.S. or who the U.S. really is. This is a secret power, a secret controller that will never reveal itself. When I talk about that the U.S. loves Bitcoin, I am talking about the real U.S. I'm not talking about your bozo senators or anything like that. So let's get that straight. This true US, they love Bitcoin. And I'm going to prove to you why. Now, in order for me to do that, we're going to have to take a step back we're going to have to take a step back and go down memory lane, shall we? Let me take a puff, shall we? Oh, that's good. Okay. Number one, in January of 2009, we know the Genesis block of Bitcoin takes place on January 3rd of 2009. 6 days later, the first block is mined. Now, it's interesting that there's this gap, right? The Genesis block was issued or put out by Satoshi Nakamoto. And that occurred on January 9th, but the first block, it took 6 days for the first block to happen. Why such a gap? When every block on average occurs every 10 minutes, why was there a 6-day gap? Because Satoshi Nakamoto, in all of their wisdom, Satoshi Nakamoto understood that he could not be the first miner. that this could be construed and would be construed as a premine. And so Satoshi Nakamoto had to wait for someone else to be the first miner. And only after the first block is mined by someone else other than he, her, it, they, whatever, could Satoshi Nakamoto begin mining. It took 6 days for someone other than Satoshi Nakamoto to mine. This is the fairest launch of a money, of an asset, of a commodity, which we'll get into in just a moment, in the history of human race. This block is mined at a price of zero, unlike any other thing that has ever existed. Zero, no cost, no value. No cost or value was set by a human being, by an entity, by a company, not like your shit coins and your altcoins do. There was no organization behind this. No one even knew if a price would ever be, if a value would ever be attached to this. In fact, for just about a year, there was a zero price. People didn't mine Bitcoin to make anything, to serve themselves in any way. They spent their energy and spent their effort to mine, not from a desire to make anything, not from a desire to profit in any way. This is very special and very, very unique. Okay, that's the launch of Bitcoin. So let's go to the first date that proves that the real United States was watching, respecting, understanding, and seeing this thing for what it is. In June of 2014, well, first of all, in June of 2014, the U.S. takes the Bitcoin that it confiscates from Silk Road, right? That's a topic in and of itself. It confiscates Bitcoin from Silk Road. And in June of 2014, the US auctions off 29,656 Bitcoin, just a little shy of 30,000 Bitcoin, to Tim Draper, the billionaire VC, the venture capitalist. Tim Draper buys just under 30,000, wins the auction and purchases just under 30,000 Bitcoin from the US. I can't remember the amount. I think it was for $18 million or something like that. Now, I think this price took place at around $630 a Bitcoin. At any rate, what does this move by the US establish? This move to auction off Bitcoin to the highest bidder, this move to sends a signal to the world that it considers Bitcoin legal. You see, when the United States government confiscates a certain number of kilos of cocaine, they don't auction the cocaine off, do they? If they take possession of what they consider to be illegal marijuana, whether you believe marijuana should be legal or illegal is besides the point, but if they confiscate marijuana that they consider to be illegal marijuana, they're not freaking auctioning off marijuana to their US citizens. The point is that that move was very strategic. They didn't have to auction off Bitcoin. You understand? But they auctioned off Bitcoin in June of 2014 to send a freaking message to you and the rest of the world. This is an item, even though we confiscated it, this is an item that we deem is okay for our citizens to hold, to have. We're selling it to you for Christ's sakes. It can't be illegal if we're selling it to you, if we're auctioning it off to you. So this occurs in June of 2014. That's US move number one. Let's go to move number two. Move number two occurs in September 17th of 2015, just about a little more than a year later. Bitcoin is officially deemed by the US government, a body of the US government, to be a commodity. The CFTC deems it a commodity. Now, I want you to understand the importance of this move. This term, cryptocurrency, had become quite popular. This is a term that Satoshi Nakamoto never ascribed to. Do you understand? He never called Bitcoin a cryptocurrency. This was spun up organically in a different way, this term. But this term actually caught root and became the label for Bitcoin. But it's not the label that Satoshi Nakamoto applied to Bitcoin. He never called Bitcoin a cryptocurrency. Never referred to, never even said the word from my understanding. I could be wrong with that, but never really said the word, if my memory serves me correctly. Again, I could be wrong on that, but he never applied the word to Bitcoin. That I know. Now, this term cryptocurrency starts to become more and more popular. So this move by the US government needs to make this clear that we are going to legally define what we consider Bitcoin to be. It is not a currency, it is a commodity. And they lock that in, they set that in stone on September 17th of 2015, deeming Bitcoin to be a commodity. Now, the importance of that is twofold. First, to say it's not a currency, it's a commodity. Well, threefold maybe. Second, maybe the commodity label gives the US the ability to tax it upon transfer. So there's a tax revenue component to it in the US. But there's a third very important, I think this is the most important aspect of that US decision to make it a commodity. It put it on parity with other commodities such as gold and oil, copper, silver. It places Bitcoin on parity with some of the most cherished, some of the most desirable things on planet Earth. A commodity. This catapults its standing, its status, not only in the United States, but for the entire freaking world. Currencies come and go. Commodities never come and go. Do you understand this, people? It makes it eternal. There are more currencies in the currency cemetery dead today than there are alive. You don't see any Roman denariuses floating around today, do you? What about Italian lira? Any of those float? Oh, the German mark? Any of those? I used to trade German marks in the 1980s. Anybody have a German mark floating around today? No. Currencies come and go. Commodities never come and go. Establishing for the world, for sending the message that Bitcoin is something that will never go away, that was here with us forever. That is not some flimsy currency that's going to come and go like a currency spun up by some banana republic. This is a commodity. It's eternal. It's freaking forever. That was moved too by the United States. Now, why am I speaking from this point of view that whatever the United States says or does is important? Because it is. Because listen, if the United States catches a cold, the world catches freaking COVID, right? So if the United States trips, everyone else collapses. So, yes, whatever the United States says is more important than what anybody else says. It is what it is, whether you like that or not. Whatever the United States believes is more important than what anybody else believes, whether you like that or not. I'm sorry. Whatever they state as legal or not legal sends ripples and waves and frickin' tsunamis through every other country in the world. And so the United States legally stating from this day forward, September 17th, 2015 onward, Bitcoin is and will forever be a commodity. It is with us forever. Let's move on to step number 3 by the United States. We have to speed up all the way to April 1st of 2021. This is a unique date because the U.S. approves Coinbase, the first centralized exchange for Bitcoin, to be a publicly traded company. I want you to understand the importance of this move and the message it sends to the world. Before this move, there was never on the face of the planet a publicly traded Bitcoin exchange. I know it's crypto exchange. We're talking about Bitcoin now. There was not that stamp of approval. Guys, the U.S. equity market is by far the most important market in the world. One of the most important is the U.S. bond market and the U.S. equity market. This sets the standard for everyone. Every major company in any other country wants to be listed on the U.S. exchanges and to approve the world's very first company as a publicly traded company with the full blessing of the United States that can sell Bitcoin to its citizens, that can custody Bitcoin on behalf of its citizens, that can buy Bitcoin from its citizens, is huge. They used Coinbase to set a precedent and to send a message to the world. We're not banning this thing step by step. We're embracing it and we're leading this thing. Item number 4. In May of 2021, China bans Bitcoin mining. After multiple attempts to ban Bitcoin, they realized that that was impossible. That was disastrous. Every time China tried to ban Bitcoin, Bitcoin adoption went up on average 400% with every single attempt to ban Bitcoin. Adoption rose in China by 400%, and they tried 8 times. 8 times, Bitcoin jumped in adoption 400% or more. That's insane. So they realized this is not the way to try to kill or attack Bitcoin. We're going to ban Bitcoin. Mining, not Bitcoin. Banning Bitcoin doesn't work. We're going to attack it at its root. We're going to ban Bitcoin mining. That occurred in May of 2021. What does the U.S. do? They take full advantage to take China's hash rate, global hash rate lead away from them. As soon as China bans Bitcoin mining, America, the United States, opens its arms and starts throwing out tax incentives, free visas, citizenship, fast citizenship plans to all the China miners. And the China miners, in large part, wind up going to two places after the ban: United States, because of those incentives, and Kazakhstan. Now, the United States did not like the fact that they did not get all of them. They got the majority of them. But Kazakhstan got a good portion too, because it's right next to China. Cheap energy, dirty energy, but still cheap energy. And so shortly after, it's known that Kazakhstan has X amount of the China miners. For whatever reason, their entire electric grid goes down. Now, I'm no conspiracy theorist. Well, actually, yes, I am. It's fucking fun to be a conspiracy theorist. So I'm going to be a conspiracy theorist. I believe that's not by chance. I believe that's not a mistake. I believe that a timed electric grid that causes all of the Bitcoin miners that go to Kazakhstan to be out of business right after they leave China, that's not freaking by chance, guys. Come on, get out of here. I'm from Brooklyn, man. I was born. I was born early in the morning. All right. I was born early in the morning. I'm from Brooklyn. You can't pull bullshit like that on me. Do you understand me? That's bullshit. If you want to try to tell me that, oh, that just happened by mistake. That's just by chance. It's a coincidence. There are no coincidences when you are talking about something this big. Never, guys. You're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars, trillions of dollars, the potential future monetary base layer of the entire world. Something that important. Nothing is by chance. Zero. There are no chances. There's no coincidences. That move right there, knocking out the power in Kazakhstan, caused the vast majority that initially went to Kazakhstan instead of the United States to then run into the open arms of the United States. This move alone caused the United States to take over China's formal role of being the global Bitcoin hash rate leader. Today, the United States controls roughly 36% of the Bitcoin hash rate. It is sourced from the United States. China, despite banning Bitcoin mining, is now number 3. They gave up their position of number 1 to the United States with that move. Stupid move. Stupid move. Now, there is some talk that China wanted to nationalize Bitcoin mining, which is why they're still very powerful as far as Bitcoin mining is concerned. They have just under 20% of the global Bitcoin hash rate, while the United States has 36%. but they had something close to 60%. And so, which had dwindled down to just above 50%, I believe, at the time of the Bitcoin mining ban. But many believe that, I don't know if many, but some believe that China wanted to take it, and the hash rate that you see from China today is actually the Chinese government mining Bitcoin. Some believe that it became so important, they realized how important it was. They wanted it totally under their control, so they banned it for any citizens to do, but they're the ones doing it now. They're the Bitcoin miners. I actually believe that more. Okay, that was item number 4. The United States welcomes all the banned China Bitcoin miners, knocks a blow to Kazakhstan and says, who are you? You're not getting in the game. Give us your miners too. Knocks their electrical grid out, takes the vast majority of the ones that moved to Kazakhstan, took those two. Then there's step number 5, which occurs on March 14th of 2023. On this infamous date, the U.S. conducts its first sale of Bitcoin. Now, remember, I gave you the date of June of 2014, where the U.S. has its first auction of 29,656 Bitcoin, and Tim Draper was the receiver of that Bitcoin. And to this very day, guys, that billionaire, Tim Draper, has never sold a single Satoshi. But I'm going to the date now of March 14th, 2023, when the U.S. conducts its first direct sale, no auction. It sells the Bitcoin that it's been holding from the Silk Road takedown. It sells 9,861 Bitcoin for $216 million, further signaling that Bitcoin is okay for its citizens to have. Listen, we're selling it to you. We're not going to sell you cocaine. We're not going to sell you illegal marijuana. We're not going to sell you illegal meth. We're not going to sell you illegal firearms, but we are going to sell you Bitcoin. It's okay to have it. It's okay to own it. You can buy it from us. And there are a lot of people who ask me and say, Oliver, but man, the US government is dumb. Why are they selling their Bitcoin? What a lot of people don't realize is that in the statute, it's actually the US government is actually required to auction off or sell to its citizens anything that it has legally confiscated from its citizens. Because if that were not in the law, then the government itself could be accused of just being a pilferer, a thief. It just wants to take valuables from its citizens to hold for itself. So in the US laws, anything that the government confiscates from a citizen, I believe it doesn't have to do this from non-citizens, but if it confiscates something from US citizens, it has to give it back to US citizens as long as that thing is legal to own or hold by US citizens. It can't keep it for itself. Now, I don't think that there are any time limits. So the US government is smart in this regard, right? Where it confiscates Bitcoin 10 years later, understanding that we're going to eventually sell it, but not now. We're selling this shit 10 years from now. We know where this is going. We're not idiots. We know where this is going. We're not selling it now. So they have the first direct sale of their Bitcoin using Coinbase for 9,861. Once again, signaling that it's okay. We'll sell it back to the citizens. It's okay. Citizens can have it. Citizens can own it. It's fine. Now, let's go to item number 6. Very huge. On December 15th of the same year, 2023, the Financial Accounting Standards Board, FASB for short, approves new Bitcoin accounting rules, making it more favorable for entities and publicly traded companies in the US to hold Bitcoin as a treasury asset. Are you freaking kidding me? Like, we're going to ban something that now we allow. We had punitive accounting rules that punished anyone to hold this. These accounting rules made it almost detrimental to a company, especially a publicly traded company, to hold Bitcoin as a treasury asset. You could only mark its losses. You could never mark its gains, ever. That is punitive to any publicly traded company. No smart investors are going to go buy the shares of a company that has an asset in large amounts that's punitive to the bottom line. And FASB was given the approval, I'm sure, by the powers that be on December 15th of 2023 to finally change that, to make holding Bitcoin now favorable to any publicly traded company, no longer punitive, no longer damaging to the bottom line, but beneficial to the bottom line of any entity, corporation, and especially publicly traded companies. Sounds like a hostile move or sounds like a favorable move? Sounds like we like this thing or sounds like we hate this thing? You know the answer. Item number 7. On January 10th of this year, you know what happened January 10th. I know you know. If you're sitting here listening to me, how many people do I have listening to me here? Probably like 10. I know. It's okay. How many people do I have here? I don't even know. 25? I don't know. Okay, cool. It's funny, man. I get almost 3,000 people listening when I show my face, and I get like 25 people when I don't show my face. So what's the message you guys are sending me? I'm beautiful? I'll take that. I'm teasing you guys. Teasing you. So on January 10th, you guys know what happened this year, 2024. The U.S., via the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC for short, approves 11 spot Bitcoin ETFs. Not one, not two, 11, taking the global lead in the ETF category. You see, Canada had a spot Bitcoin ETF, I believe. Several other countries had already had spot Bitcoin ETFs. But you understand that these countries are not the US. The world takes the lead from the US. So, not being the first, it had to make a big splash by announcing, we've got this industry now. I know you were first, but we're going to make a bigger splash and we're going to take the lead in this category. We're the ETF kings. We're not going to approve one BlackRock. We're going to approve 11, and we're going to steal this market from every single country in the world, and you'll never be able to catch us. It makes sure that the biggest, the most powerful companies apply. I believe this was planned. It's not rinky dink companies. They had a few rinky dinks in there, but that's just to make it look a certain way. But they made sure the most powerful in the United States filed. This was going to be a showing to the world how serious we are and how powerfully we're going to take this thing and take the lead. It's not Joe Schmo's financial management court filing, something that nobody's ever heard. It's freaking Uncle Larry. It's freaking BlackRock. It's freaking Fidelity. Those two alone dominate the world. Do you understand? Crazy. Let us not forget that banks today are being set up to be allowed to be custodians of Bitcoin. Right now, Mellon Bank has been working closely with the filings that gives them the ability to be an actual custodian of Bitcoin. Now, why is New York Mellon Bank important? If you are in front of your computer, I want you to Google this, all right? I want you to Google who is the largest custodian in the entire world. Let me see if I can see this. Who is the largest custodian in the world? The largest custodian bank in the world. BNY Mellon. BNY Mellon is currently the world's largest custodian bank with over $43 trillion in assets under custody. Now, it's more. According to March 2024, the Bank of New York Mellon, BNY Mellon, is the world's largest custodian bank with $45.7 trillion in assets under custody. You think BlackRock is big with 10, 11 trillion? How about $45.7 trillion? Bank of New York Mellon is moving into the Bitcoin custody business. What do you think that means? We're going to ban it. We don't like it. Doesn't it mean that, no, we want to hold it? We want to have it. We want to take care of it on your behalf. Now, I'm not saying you should do that. I'm just saying what the freaking message communicates. The U.S., the real U.S., not the bozo politicians, the clowns that get up in front of their podiums and talk with their clown shoes and their little clown noses and yap into their microphones about. We're not talking about those idiots. We're talking about the real U.S. These moves suggest we love Bitcoin. We love it so much, we're sending our best at it. Now, let's put this all together, shall we? And then I'll see if you have any questions regarding this. Today, Bitcoin halving day, the U.S., through its own holdings, the U.S. is one of the largest holders of Bitcoin in the entire world. Think about that. They're one of the largest holders of Bitcoin in the world. That's hating it. That's wanting to ban it. So today, the U.S., through its own holdings, through the holdings of its publicly traded miners, through the holdings of its publicly traded companies, and through the holdings of its publicly traded and approved centralized exchanges like Coinbase, is there any one more dominant in the world as far as Bitcoin is concerned? Not even close. I want you to think about this. Coinbase holds over 1 million Bitcoin in custody, but that's the United States. The US is one of the largest holders of Bitcoin itself currently. That's the US. MicroStrategy and all other publicly traded companies like Square and Tesla or what have you, they hold large amounts of Bitcoin. That's the US. Publicly traded miners mine it and hold a portion of it. That's the US. The US has the largest hash rate. They dominate the Bitcoin mining space. They dominate the global Bitcoin hash rate. They hold, as a country, the largest stack of Bitcoin in the world. As a country itself, it holds larger Bitcoin stack than any other country in the world. All the law changes to make it favorable, deeming it as a commodity, changing the accounting rules so that you can hold it. It's an encouragement to hold it, and giving the largest, making sure that the largest power players in the US are involved: Mellon Bank and BlackRock and Fidelity. So I ask you, Anon, you still think the United States doesn't like Bitcoin? I'm sure the answer is no. You have to watch what they do, not what they say. You have to watch what they do, not what they write. You have to watch what they do, not what they insinuate, not what they infer. You have to watch what they do. I've given you a list of do's that spell only one thing. We want it. We want to be the leaders in it. And while we know we can't control the protocol itself, we want to be the most dominant in the new Bitcoin world. All right, guys. That's my talk for today. So let's see if you have any questions for me. I want to see what you're talking about here. Well, this is interesting. Someone, Jeremy, just sent me something from Satoshi's journal I'm going to have to read. It's titled "How Bitcoin Could Rug Pull the BRICS Nations." Oh, that's crazy. That's right. So the BRICS nations are trying to garner some traction, and Bitcoin is saying, go do your BRICS nation thing. We'll do Bitcoin. I tell you, man, listen, I'm an American. I am biased in this regard. All right, I might live the majority of my time outside of America. I'm in America now, but I do live the majority of my life outside of America. But I am American through and through. I respect my country. I am not happy about everything, but I'm not happy about everything of anything. But I will tell you this: I marvel at the 3D chess playing every single time. I marvel at it. I've always marveled at it in all of my readings and searching back in the historical moves and things. America stays 15 steps ahead of everybody. It's crazy. And I know that's not very popular today to say, but I'm still going to say it. I'm a patriot. I'm sorry. And with all of its problems, and it has a lot of them, it's still the best country in the world. And I traveled the world over and over and over again. I am hopeful. I see these moves and I'm hopeful. And Bitcoin is hope. I see no other region or no other country adopting Bitcoin quietly and so powerfully as the United States. It's got to mean something, people. It's got to mean something. So we'll see. We'll see. Thank you, Calvin, for sending me the graph of the Bank of New York Mellon Corporation. Very powerful. Any other questions you have for me? Anything else, people? That's it? Let's see here. I love this. El Chavo del Bitcoin says, patriot who lives in Colombia. Yeah, you can live in another country and still be a patriot. You can. I'll give you a hint, though. Is energy cheaper in Colombia or cheaper in the United States? El Chavo del Bitcoin. What do you think? Is energy cheaper in Colombia or is energy cheaper in the United States? Hint, hint. And see if you're intelligent enough to catch that hint. All right. What else here? A Road Warrior 1984 says, love the content. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Let's see. I think I have to keep refreshing this to see if there are any new questions here. Let's see here, guys. Give me just a moment. Checking. A couple picked up a few more listeners. That's awesome. That's awesome. Jeremy Garcia is asking, Oliver, do you think the Catholic Church is buying Bitcoin since they supposedly own the most amount of real estate than anyone in the world? That's interesting. I wouldn't be surprised. if they weren't. I wouldn't be surprised if they were, I should say. Um, I believe that Bitcoin will have the greatest demonetization effect on two asset classes more than others. It's going to demonetize in a big way the global bond market. Now, that's the biggest market in the world, right? It's going to demonetize the global bond market. And this is something that I believe that the United States, they see this on the horizon. And El Salvador is a test case for Bitcoin-backed bonds because that's the only thing that's going to, in my opinion, in the future, save the global bond market. That if you have Bitcoin-backed bonds, then what you do is you add an income component to Bitcoin, and that's what is largely in the financial world, your Warren Buffetts and your Charlie Mungers and a lot of your financial people in the traditional financial space, the problem that they have with Bitcoin is that it has no way to measure its value from their perspective because it has no revenue stream, it has no income component. But when you combine Bitcoin with bonds, you can add an income component to the Bitcoin itself, and that becomes an extraordinarily powerful combination. Now, that's the only thing that's going to save the the global bond market, because I believe that it's peaked, and I believe that it's peaked forever. That's right, forever. I know that's a dangerous thing to say, but government-backed debt versus Bitcoin-backed debt, that's not going to stay relevant. Bitcoin's going to eat that whole sector. And you can do this if you hold a lot of Bitcoin as a country. You can save your bond structure, your debt-based structure, by, instead of saying it's my bonds are backed by my military, it's backed by my ability to enforce with violence. My bonds are backed by the fact that I have tax revenue, which is a dwindling form of revenue. Or saying that my bonds are backed by my might, the fact that I hold the world reserve currency, which is losing value faster, purchasing power faster than it ever has in history. These things are all going away. And Bitcoin is the only thing that can save them in a way. And so I am sure, as powerful as the Catholic Church is, I'm sure they have this understanding. But so bonds are going to be demonetized, and real estate is going to be greatly demonetized as well. Not as a form of living in a structure like a home. That will never go away. People need shelter. People need to live in a home. But using real estate as this vehicle to store my excess wealth in, that's going away. Having 17 apartment buildings as a side thing or as your main business, that's going away. You understand? Like, there's in its current form, it's going to be demonetized. It's not going to disappear, but it's going to greatly be diminished. Do you understand? It's just inferior. It was what was available at the time, but now that Bitcoin is available, something far more superior as a property is available now, is just, it's going to kill it. And people say, well, Oliver, you can't, with properties, there's rental income. Well, there are going to be ways to add an income stream to your Bitcoin. That's why the Mellon Bank is getting involved. And that's why BlackRock's and the Fidelities or whatever, there are going to be these layers on top of Bitcoin that allow you to earn on your Bitcoin without really ever losing ownership of your Bitcoin. And we're just early. And so, Bitcoin backed bonds and things of this nature, these things will come. And I'm telling you, it's so superior to what we have traditionally or historically had. It's just going to demonetize them. All assets eventually get replaced by more superior assets. This demonetization thing is not something new. It always happens. If something more superior comes into play, it demonetizes what's inferior. Silver used to be the world's money, but something new came on the scene as being more advantageous, more sound. It had stronger characteristics. It was more powerful, more enduring, more lasting, harder, more scarce. And that was gold. And gold demonetized silver. And one of the reasons why China lost its global lead, it was the ruler of the world at one point. What led to its decline was the fact that it couldn't leave the silver standard to switch to the superior thing because of the opium trade was so reliant on silver. And by abandoning silver, they would kill their economy, which was largely supported by the opium trade. And so they were stuck with an inferior money, and they went from being one in the world to being last in the world. And they lost 1,000 years by not switching to the superior thing. And this is the lesson throughout history. If you fail to recognize when something has come on the scene that is more superior than what you're used to, if you don't get that message early and make the switch, you go from being on top of the world to actually on the bottom of the world, and you lose 1,000 years. No one wants to make this mistake anymore. And based on these moves, it doesn't appear like the United States is making that mistake. All right, what else here? El Chavo says, let me send you a box of Cuban cigars. You can always send me a box of Cuban cigars. Always. Parte gas y nada más. All right. Road Warrior says, you can't stop once we hit 100K. I can stop, and I will. There's a lot of people watching. Now, Oliver's not going to leave. Oliver's not going to leave at 100,000. He's just pulling our leg. Oh, really? You watch. Guys, I have done this with every single platform I've ever participated in. This used to be what I did every day, constant, just like I do here today, and on Instagram at some point in the past. And I can't tell you when the last time I opened that. My team still posts there, but I don't do anything there. I have 330, how many? I have 330,000 subscribers. I guess that's what they're called on YouTube. They're called subscribers. Yeah. 330,000. It's still small in the grand scheme of things, but I I used to respond to every question, everything there. I don't do that now. My team does, but I don't do that. So it's coming. I'm afraid it's coming, guys. And I was hoping that this $100,000 level that I promised I would stay here until that level hit. I was hoping it would come before my travel schedule picks up because I'm about to go on a traveling, my annual traveling tour, and just not sustainable for me. I can't do it. All right, so now I'm gone. I'm sorry, but what I've attempted to do is to leave behind enough electronic footprints, enough of my thoughts, my ideas regarding Bitcoin, where they can be looked at, listened to, read for many years to come. I've attempted to make what I talk about as evergreen as possible, meaning that they're not so tied into just a current event that becomes irrelevant a year later. So I've tried to stay away from that. There is some of that mixed in because it's hard to ignore what's going on today, because what's going on today is so exciting and so very powerful. But I've also always been very careful about tying it into things that will always remain of value. So if you were to come back to my posts, my tweets, my talks, my podcast 10 years from now, I want them to still be relevant. 80% of what's said, talked about, still relevant. So I'm very conscious of that. And I got this idea by when I sat down for a year and a half and I went through every single former or prior or historical Bitcoin forum, post, comment, as from the extraordinarily trivial to what is considered today to be classically important. I've read every single word ever spoken about Bitcoin. I've watched every single video, every single talk, every single conference. I did that over a year and a half, tens of thousands of hours. You understand? And that's what gave me the idea that maybe that's something that I need to do. I know that I'm a baby in this space. I know that there are many people listening to me today that have longer time in this space, but there are very few people who put the time in that I have put in. That I know, that I can guarantee you. And so I'm still learning. I felt this was a great medium via which we could learn together, discover together, be wrong together, be right together, to learn in real time. And I think I've done this here over the last 2 years, and it's time to go. It's time to go. So I'll keep my promise. It's till Bitcoin reaches 100,000. That doesn't mean I'm selling Bitcoin, because I'm not a seller of Bitcoin. I don't think that you sell Bitcoin. I don't think that you sell your freedom. I don't think that you sell your self-sovereignty for anything. There is no price that you can put on it for me that will make me sell this thing. I'm telling you, I'm not going back to fiat slavery. That's not going to happen. All right. But I do appreciate your comments, for real. All right, guys. Well, listen, the halving is coming up. Let's get our current. We are currently at block 839,973. We have 4 hours, estimated 4 hours and 30 minutes before the next halving takes place. This is estimated to be around the time of 9:03 p.m. That is Eastern time today. It's exciting. I strongly encourage that you watch it happen, that you should literally Watch it happen. Go to timechaincalendar.com and watch it, or mempool.space and watch this happen. This is something that will happen without any influence by any human being on planet Earth. No one can stop it. No one's controlling it. No human being is running this, and the world is watching. The world is watching a brand new species do its thing, and it's paying human beings to participate. It's the first asset, commodity, the first money that human beings have ever been exposed to that literally pays human beings to work with it, protect it, to serve it. It's quite amazing. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys. Happy Bitcoin halving. Go to work. You know what to do. Stack harder. Ciao for now. Boom. My name is Oliver Velez, and I am your 13%er Bitcoiner. Be safe out there, and until next time.